Proving that you're less wrong is the best way to prove yourself more right. It removes cognitive biases, it helps remove the ego. Let's talk about it in relation to flat Earth. This guy is going to prove to us that the Earth is flat, and he's going to do it by cutting 2 holes in these walls, and he's going to shine a light through them. Now, if the Earth is flat, then a person who's holding that light far away will have it at a perfect level. There will be no reason to lift that light up any higher. But if the person is on a curved Earth, then they'll have to lift that light above their head. Otherwise, we just won't be able to see it.
Drive down there, Enrique. You're going to hold the light there. Enrique, how high is your light?
17 feet.
I mean, it's as... we don't see you, Enrique. Lift up your light way above your head. Interesting.
Isn't that something? After this experiment, do you think this person dropped the belief that the Earth is flat, or do you think they continued to believe it? There's a human tendency called confirmation bias, where we will interpret information that we see to support the beliefs we currently have, to try to make them more right, even if they're proven wrong. You get a whole bunch of people like this together and you get flat earthers. This is called belief persistence, where beliefs maintain even when they're wrong. Now this sucks. It blinds us to the truth. It makes us make decisions that are gonna hurt the environment, hurt ourselves, hurt others. This guy creates an amazing experiment that does a fantastic job of explaining the curvature of the Earth, but because of belief persistence and the confirmation bias, this individual chooses to continue to live a lie because it maintains the identity that they have. Now this is not something that's unique to this individual. Everybody has confirmation bias. Everybody experiences belief persistence. We will all continue to try to support the things that we think are right. This makes us worse at arguing points. It makes it harder for us to understand other points. It makes it harder for us to be able to connect and empathize with other people who see the world differently. And at worst, we begin to start lying to ourselves, or political pundits and arguments are going to be made to make actively bad choices for ourselves, others, and the world. So how can we as people separate our ego, separate ourselves from confirmation bias, and make good decisions? Number 1. Be aware that this exists, because when we know, it helps us avoid these traps. And number 2, prove yourself wrong. The goal here isn't to play the devil's advocate, it's to actively think about what evidence would you need to see to take a different mindset, to believe that you were incorrect. Now, to win, it means to be wrong, and to be wrong means you win. Let's take the round, flat Earth as an example. Now, I believe that the Earth is round. I don't think it's flat. How could I disprove a round Earth? What would I need to see to begin to think that the Earth actually is flat? Well, first thing, I could do this experiment that this person demonstrated, but I would do it a little bit differently. I would lay flat on a beach and look at the horizon. And then as the sun sinks below the horizon, as I lay down flat on that, the moment that it's gone, I will get up and stand vertically, and I will likely see the sun still as it continues to go to the edge. And as it disappears there, I can hop on a ladder and look up and look down to see if I can see the sun. Now, if there was a flat Earth and the sun disappeared there, it would be gone, and really getting any higher wouldn't help me see the sun anymore. But if the Earth was curved, then getting a little bit higher up, I would have more time to watch that sunset. I become the camera, and the sun becomes the light. And that little circle that wall thing is the horizon. Now, if I did that and the Earth disappeared immediately, I would honestly not think that the Earth is flat immediately. I would think, well, this is evidence for the idea that the Earth is flat, but it doesn't mean that the Earth is flat. But it would begin to make me question myself, and I would start asking other people to do it. I would try to see if I could make a better experiment, those kind of things. Now, other things that I could do to prove that the Earth is flat. Well, if I was to go somewhere different than where I live now, I'm currently in Washington. So if I was to go to Hawaii, and then suddenly the sun rose at a different time than I was used to, that would be evidence in a round world. But if it didn't, it would be evidence of a flat world. You see, if the Earth was flat, the sun rising on one side would actually hit most of the planet really quickly in lighting it, because it would only have a couple mountains that it needs to crest. It's kind of like the horizon water example, but in reverse. You can suddenly have all the light very quickly, but if it's rounded, it will take a long period of time for each area to be lit. So if I go to Hawaii, where it has a couple hours difference, and I notice a couple hours difference in the time that it takes for the sun to rise, that can be evidence that the Earth is round. But if it does not have a couple different hours for the sun to rise, that would be evidence the Earth is flat. Again, if that happened, I wouldn't necessarily be like, all right, Earth's flat, but I would begin to question. I would begin to look at this and be thinking, well, round Earth does not provide enough explanation for what's happening, but flat Earth does. Now, there's an important point in this too. It's evidence that the Earth is flat and not round. When you're proving things like this, your goal isn't to prove yourself right. I don't prove the Earth is round. I prove that the Earth being round is a better explanation than it being flat. By focusing on proving yourself wrong, you actually go through the process of proving yourself less wrong than the other idea. So when I do these experiments, if we get a round Earth outcome, that means that there is less evidence supporting flat Earth than there is round Earth in these experiments. So in this way, you begin to realize that the reason why you believe in something is because it's the best way to explain observations. A lot of times, the belief is something based on faith. Even if it's accurate, it still can be a faith-based belief that is hard to defend because you don't necessarily know what the issues that could exist about your idea. It could be true that the Earth is flat, however, it does not act that way. Thus, it's more likely the Earth is round. You can use this as a technique in a discussion with someone. Say to someone, what would I need to tell you to make you change your mind? Now, this is kind of a surprise question to ask someone. If you tell them that, and then say, let me explain on how I can tell you how to disprove my perspective, that would demonstrate that you have an understanding of the flaws of the argument. Tell me that the Earth is flat. Let me tell you how you can prove that to me. This is great because it helps the other person kind of understand that you're going at this to seek truth. You're like, hey, look, I'm not trying to win an argument here. We're trying to understand what explanation best explains what we're seeing. If an individual is unable to provide you any information on how to prove themselves wrong, they might have a bit more of a faith-based belief system in this idea. That's a lot harder to defend, and people who tend to not have reasons for why they believe something get identity involved. The more your identity gets tied up with beliefs, the harder it is to get rid of them. The flat earther individual socially is connected to this belief. The flat earther individual's identity is as a flat earther. Who are they when the Earth is round? The goal here is to try to separate your ego, separate your confirmation bias, separate your identity from your belief. And it's very difficult to seek truth for someone who believes in something because it's their identity, rather than believing in something because it's the best explanation for what's happening. And you'll become more persuasive when you're talking to other people because you'll know what things they think is wrong with your argument. This will save you time when discussing with people. And I mean, worst case, you can switch to something less contentious than the Earth's flat or roundness by talking about politics and religion.